Right, good afternoon. Then we've got Heather Roach, a former ACPO officer from Lincolnshire. And Heather, you can just tell us who you are and where you're from and background and all that kind of stuff. That'd be a good start.
Yeah, I'm Heather Roach. I was the temporary Deputy Chief Constable for Lincolnshire Police up until my retirement in 2 years ago. So I've just completed just under 30 years because I had a bit of a career before joining the police force, and most of my time I've spent in CID roles, professional standards, and then latterly I did 18 months as the deputy.
Okay, that's good. And I've got the right force, yeah, Lincolnshire.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And what I've been doing with the interviews, Heather, I've been just asking people about what support the service has given to you. And I'm going to ask you the same question. I mean, what support did Lincolnshire give to you when you announced you were going, and yeah, that side of it?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that the police service isn't really geared up to providing support and giving you too much advice for what comes next, really.
Yeah.
And the things that I did was I went on a PMAS run course for a day,
Right.
which really focused around the financial aspects of retiring, obviously taking a pension or a lump sum, etc., and just giving you some ideas about your investment, what you might do next, etc. But I think overall, what's missing is any kind of advice and support for you moving on. Most of us, even if we do 30 years or 35 years, are still relatively young. I was just turning 50 when I retired, and there's an awful lot of life left in me yet, hopefully, to go on and do something different. And I think I did have quite a good idea of what I did want to do and what I didn't want to do. But there was nobody really around that you can tap into to go and have those conversations and say, what does the next 10 years look like for me, and how do you transfer into something completely different?
Yeah, it's interesting. That seems to be the general consensus right across the board. And you and I had a quick chat on the phone last week, and my question to you was, where do all the ACPO go? Because I just don't know where they go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we go in various routes, really. Some people probably go and do something completely different or don't. Some people take their skills and their knowledge and go back into something. I kind of left. I went into a voluntary role for safeguarding for the church for the first year. I then found some further work within the local authority safeguarding, and it's the sort of thing that I'd done over the last 5 years. So I had quite a good knowledge of partnerships, quite a good knowledge of, the Care Act, etc. And I was able to kind of get into a role that suited me and my work-life balance, because I think it's really important when you do leave to find something that fits what you want to do. Because I think particularly as an ACPO officer, you live and, well, any officer, you live and breathe the job 24/7, and suddenly it's not there anymore, and there's almost a bit of a void that you need to fill personally to go on and do something else.
That's one of my questions actually, about how did you feel, leading up to, and probably that day that you left on that horse, funny enough. How did it all feel though for you?
In all honesty, I really didn't want to go. I think you get to a point in your career where actually there's still a lot of challenge, but you feel quite comfortable doing the job. You've got a lot of experience. It's enjoyable. Yes, it's full on, but actually you're almost going at a point where potentially you're the best you'll ever be. And I felt very, very sad to be going. And actually, when my post was filled, I was really quite upset about it. But then you think, well, actually, there's a bigger life outside. There's something else I can do. You have to look at it very positively. You're moving on to a different part of your life.
Yeah. It's interesting, Heather, because Mark and I, we met with some industry people last week. It was last Wednesday, and there's a huge cry out there for for police officers of all ranks and you know, civilian staff as well, and specials, you name it, but all police family really, because of the skills that you've got over those 30 years, and they just seem to have kind of, wasted is probably not too strong a word to use, but they've not been grabbed by, and I love the phrase UK PLC, because yeah, there's people who really do need likes of yourself out there to go and work for them and with them, and there's a void there. Something about how do we fill that void?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is recognising the skills you do have, because you were quite institutionalised, I think, as a police officer for 30 years, and you don't actually recognise the massive amount of talent and skill that you build up over a time. And just simple things like policing for me is around managing risk. We know how to manage risk. We know how to put a good risk management process in. You know about risk assessments. You know, and there's so much that you can transfer into other roles. There's some specific skills that you've got around people, because from day one you deal with people face to face, and that's either, you know, in a real challenging situation or just on a day-to-day basis. So that's easily transferable. So, you know, you're a good communicator, you're a problem solver. I spent my last 5 years, I suppose, chairing meeting after meeting, you know, so you kind of know the governance, the structures, how to put things together. And I think once you sit down, start to write down what should go in your CV, and that's a skill in itself. It's really surprising what you've done and what you've actually, you know, got locked away.
And again, we haven't covered what you've done since leaving Heather. So what is it I know you do some voluntary stuff, but is your intention ever to go back, you know, full-time working again, or have you been doing full-time working?
I've always got to full-time working, but that wasn't by design. What I actually wanted to do was to have a very more balanced family life, along with doing work that interests me and stimulates me, and I can do a bit of both, because I think every police officer will say you have given up so much of your time to the job that you've missed out on a lot of other things. I've got 2 boys who are still quite young, you know, 13 and 10, so it's really nice to be able to do the normal family things, like even take them to school, because I never used to do that. So I was very, very clear that I wanted a balance, work that stimulates me and I can give something back to you know, the community, if you like, which is why I went back into safeguarding, but also then doing the voluntary work as well. And I know we'll probably talk about it. I coached riding for the disabled, and again, it's just about trying to be a rounded person, enjoying everything you do, and moving on from a different career, really. I really like that point about the transferable skills and your rightness, and getting the work-life balance is what it's about, because you don't always get that in policing, as we know, no matter what role you're doing and what rank you are or what part of the service you're in as well. But in terms of moving forward, and Heather, what the CV was the interesting one that we've been asking the questions about. We know that in the police we have to do a kind of BC5 the CV, if that's the right word, you know, when we're going for jobs internally. But not sure if you've had advice or you can give advice on CV building, because you covered some really good stuff there. Yeah, I didn't actually receive any advice. I researched it myself, went online, looked at various ways of putting a CV together, because you know, you do a job application in a particular way within policing, and it's a little bit different whatever force you're in. So it was a bit of a surprise, really, to sort of look at a CV and think, gosh, how am I going to complete this? And I suppose what I also did was I took it down my own route and my own style, and I do relate everything almost back to policing. When I applied for the job with the diocese, I very much related how the clergy relate to their parishes, how we would relate to our public as police officers, and that, for me, that's the only way I can deal with it. you know, it was very easy to be able to transfer the stuff that I've been doing at work into their scenario, because it was just, you know, it dovetails quite nicely in. But as for getting any professional advice on CVs, I actually didn't, and I think that is that's a gap that we could really fill.
Yeah, I know. Again, me plugging that, leaving the police here. We've got one person at the moment that does do CVs. I suspect it's going to grow. We can certainly grow that. But the good thing is, it's an ex-Metropolitan Police officer, 6, 7 or 8 years service, so he knows what police have been through. He knows how to change that wording across. And the example we've given is, I was a custody officer. And that you and I know what a custody officer is, but somebody who's trying to employ them will not have a clue. Won't even know what rank it is. Will no idea what the role is. So the message we're trying to get out is about, just tell us what you did then. What did you achieve? You know, use some verbs in everything that you did. That's the point we're trying to get across to everybody by the video as well, if we can.
Yes, absolutely. Because as you rightly say, people don't understand the hierarchy, the ranks, etc. And I think the big surprise for me going into other organisations was the culture's very different. We are so hierarchical in policing that actually that doesn't work within other organisations, and you have to go about things very differently. And it's, you know, it's very much about negotiation and talking to people, and you actually have to spend a lot more time with them to get them to do what you would easily probably achieve within policing, which is a surprise.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I'm funny enough, in between doing some training delivery, I'm actually writing up some stuff for leadership and management, and it's going back to that stuff that we went back to years ago about the transactional versus the transformational, and policing because of its role, and the military because of its role. That's all kind of transactional stuff, and you're going into other organisations that just don't do it that way.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a lesson that I learned very early on, is you get very frustrated at the lack of action. And you have to sort of go about it a very different way to get the end result. You get it, but it's a slower time. And I think that's the surprise. After 30 years of getting things done, I came up against an awful lot of brick walls, and I had to go around them.
Yeah, but fair enough. We're going through exactly the same, but a simple thing like a job advert, you just think it'd be simple, but to and fro, we've been to and fro for the last couple of weeks on this particular thing, but it's an interesting, like you say, we ask for something, usually we get it within 24 hours, and it's kind of, what's the next thing?
Yes, absolutely, move on.
I think somebody described it to me as we like lampposts. We like moving to the next lamppost and find out what the next job is, and moving on. So that's what we do, I guess, at the end of the day. Heather, you mentioned, I'm not sure if you had a job interview when you were going for the diocese thing, but if you did, have you got any hints and tips? Because that's another one where we're not so good at interviewing jobs outside of policing.
Yeah, absolutely. I did get interviewed for that job, and I think my biggest tip for that is really thinking about your transferable skills. So things like the projects that you've been involved in, the delivery of things, your risk management, your organisational skills and your problem solving, and to really read across and think about the issues that organisation might be having and where you can then add value. So I kind of went into that interview very much with an idea of what their overall strategy ought to be, what we needed to do to make sure that kind of their front line understood the safeguarding or the reason for safeguarding and what they needed to do. And I kind of approached it with a plan about what I would do over the next 12 months to take them forward. So I think that's a tip for me, is understand the organisation you're going to go to, where you add value, and thinking about those skills that you've already got and how it might help them. So I think that's the really important bit to go with. But also be personable, be you. You've got an awful lot to offer coming from a background in policing, and I think we are very good with people, and I think we should never underplay that.
No, I totally agree with that. There was a bit that I picked up there in what you were saying about understanding the issues of the organisation that you're going to. We haven't heard that before. We've had lots of interviews, and nobody's actually specific. We always get a nugget. Every single interview we get a nugget. We think, oh, we didn't know that. But we're going to do some research on an organisation, But I like the point that you made about, well, what's the issue? So what's the thing that you can help to resolve
Yes.
with your background? And that's that. It's fitting in, isn't it? And that's what I liked about what you just said there.
Yes, I think one of the biggest things that I probably did for the diocese was pull together a kind of critical incident policy for them. And we're so used to, in policing, being able to deal with something that is happening now, that you've got to get a grip of, that you get the right people doing the right things, that you manage your reputation, etc.
Yeah.
And all of that, it is very, very new to organisations like potentially the Church of England. I know they've gone through a lot of issues,
Yeah.
but it's feeling comfortable about dealing with problems when they arise. And we actually took it to the national conference to give it an airing and talk to them about how we'd managed ours. And it went down very, very well with them, because we're so used to putting a structured approach in. It was just something we could give them from my background to be able to help them through their issues. So yeah. I think that was probably the best thing we did.
Again, a really good example of where you can transfer your experience and knowledge quite readily into something like the church. And people are thinking, well, how do the police and the church go together then? But it's about people, isn't it? Yes. It's about people, it's about processes. So it's quite naturally fits together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. Really do like that. It's an interesting one. Having taken us a few minutes to get together today. So social media, Heather, I will come back to safeguarding it. So social media, I mean, have you used it? I know you obviously used it in policing I think it's becoming more to the fore in policing now, probably even since you 2 years ago. But do you use it now? Would you use it? Would you recommend it? Or hints and tips for anybody?
Yeah, I think if you're going to run your own business and, you know, I mean, I'm sort of employed as a management consultant, if you like, in the role that I do. If when my contract comes to an end, I want to continue to do that, I think I'd use the social media to market what I could and couldn't do.
Yeah.
I just also think it's really useful for keeping up to speed in your particular area, because it's quick, it's easily accessible.
Yeah.
I'm desperately trying to push our board down the route of getting into the 21st century and using a lot more social media, because it's much easier to do a little podcast for staff so they understand new things that are coming in. They see you as an individual. You know, they're at the moment, they're not using Twitter. Please use Twitter. It's great, you know, quick. So some people are still behind, if you like, and I just think it's the way we're going. It's easy, other than obviously getting on this type of video.
Yeah.
But we just need to use it a little bit more and think about it, and think not only for our staff that we're trying to influence, but also the public as well. Because I think people who are in public roles, heading boards and that sort of thing, you know, they should be personalities in their own right. And when people think around, the safeguarding board, well, who's the chair of it? I'd really like to know, and I'd like them to be a bit more proactive.
Yeah, I like that. And again, from what I'm seeing in the police world, because obviously through Leaving the Police, we're on Twitter, and we do as much tweeting and retweeting as we can. And I see probably maybe 10, 15 ACPO kind of colleagues doing it, which is great. You know, some chief constables are doing it. That's the kind of thing we need to know. Now, I guess all the public within each of the counties need to know what's happening in our force. I think it's a great medium in particular, using Twitter. I was going to link it back to the safeguarding thing again. And I know, again, you and I had a quick chat last week about where do you think safeguarding is going in the future? Because the reason I'm asking is I've interviewed Graham Bartlett then in Sussex. I've got a colleague, as you know, from training, Kate, who's also a lawyer, who's really pushing to do the training part of safeguarding. But I think she's banging on some doors that are not opening at the moment. I'm just interested in your view on that and about where is it going in the future?
Yeah, I think overall, some areas are probably further forward than others. I think the actual working together aspect of safeguarding needs a bit of a push. We are all dealing, each organisation is dealing with potentially the same people, the same families, and we just seem to have a myriad of boards and community safety partnerships, wellbeing boards, safeguarding boards, public protection boards, and we're all kind of looking at the same thing. And I think there's got to come a point where you pull your resources and we all look at it together and we all work together on an operational level, because you know, police and fire work together now in many areas. There's multi-agency safeguarding hubs in some areas, not all, and I just think you must be able to do it in a more efficient, effective manner if you all work together as opposed to being in isolation. And that's the barrier a lot of the time that people, particularly different departments, say, well, we're doing okay, you know, we've got good reports, etc. Why would you change it? And I just think sometimes there's got to be a leap of faith that says we're all under pressure financially, and it would make far more sense that we corralled our resources, worked together, forgot about the governance, because everybody gets hung up on who's the line manager, etc. It does not matter. But as long as we're all going in the same direction, you know, I think that's the way it will go eventually.
It's interesting. It's almost like it's behind the curve in terms of that lovely word that we all now know is collaboration, isn't it?
Yes, I've lived and breathed it.
I was going to say, you must know that word much better than I do. It was around before I left, and I was going to go back, sticking with that subject ahead. I mean, I think you and I, if I've got the right person, I've interviewed so many people recently. Were you not going to look at the sports side? Was it hockey you were looking at in terms of safeguarding?
No, that's not me.
Oh, it's not you. But the disabled riding, for sure, yeah?
Oh, yeah, I do. I do coaching for riding for the disabled as a voluntary role. I kind of went along because I'd always wanted to do that sort of thing, and I just find it fascinating because I've got a real big equine interest myself, always have had. And I just see the value in people who have both physical and mental disabilities doing something that stretches them, that's a little bit different. And if they, you know, for me, they come along for 45 minutes once a week, and if you can see them smile, get excited, do something that they wouldn't normally do, then you've made a difference to them. And I thoroughly enjoy it. I just went along to lead a few horses around, and I've ended up getting into the teaching side of it. But it's brilliant, and just to see them.
That's good. I mean, again, we're going to talk about that near the end of the interview as well. You mentioned earlier on financial advice, Heather. I mean, where would our colleagues go for financial advice internally before they leave, for instance? And I know some people have got this right and they plan a year in advance before they leave, which is great. But the financial advice bit, bear in mind, I've got to be careful how I say this, but some financial advisors will probably want you to go to them to take the next step, rather than just saying it's independent advice, go X, Y, Z to go and get the next bit of the product.
Yeah, it's very difficult because there isn't really any independent financial advice. You kind of go with a company, and I'd been with a particular set of financial advisors since I was a superintendent, and it's a particular firm that worked with the Superintendents Association, so I stayed with them because I was comfortable that I could talk to them about what my plans were, where I needed my money at a particular time, etc. And they were very good at investing it for me, and when I wanted it, getting it, kind of thing. So it's more by luck than judgment, and it's been word of mouth that I have obviously passed on to my colleagues. Well, I've worked with this firm, they've been really good, but there is nothing within policing that I know of that will point you in the right direction. And you do have to be a little bit savvy around tax and all of that. It's a minefield, and particularly then if you're going into being self-employed, as I've done, and you'll know this obviously, is you've got to think about your insurance, how you pay your tax, your national insurance, and I've never had to do that. You know, somebody gives me a paycheck every month, which is fine, but when you go on your own, it's very different. Yeah.
And it's not forgetting that you've already got, if you're lucky enough to have a pension as well. fair enough, Mark and I did a webinar this morning. We were talking about exactly the subject about, we're actually talking about worth. We're actually talking about what are we actually worth away from policing. And what lots of cops think about is, well, I've got a pension, so I only need the bit that tops that up to where I used to be. So we're trying to say, no, get away from that. You've earned that separately. You're now going to go for a job. But it's about what are you worth today for that job to get that you get a pension. That's a separate issue, nothing to do with the new employer. So that links into this financial advice thing as well. So interesting angles and interesting takes on that.
Yes, because you will undersell yourself or undervalue yourself, and I found that very much is I've been asked to do various things, and it's only really now that I'm getting more savvy around actually, no, I am worth X amount for me to come and do you a development day, because I have to put in a lot of work beforehand. You want me for a day or 2 days, well, you know, how much is that worth?
Yeah, no, you're right, and that's where, and I'm glad to hear you say that as well, Heather. And it is about, it's not just me today, it's what's it taken for me to get to where I am today with my knowledge, my experience, and you know, that work-life balance that probably wasn't there for all those years. Actually, that's what I'm worth. Yeah, it's got to be.
Yes, definitely.
I call it, it's the getting out of bed moment. Is it worth me getting out of bed today for that amount?
Yes, I have to get out of bed, unfortunately.
I think we all do for some reason, whatever that might be. So just coming near the end of this, then, Heather, I mean, the transition then for police family, let's call it. Just your view on that. You know, from a senior officer kind of profile, and you've obviously seen lots of colleagues leaving. Some have done 30 years. Some have only done 5 or 6 years. You know, for whatever reason, it's not for them, and they want to move on, which is fine. But just in hints and tips and advice that you might want to give, and you probably have done, no doubt, as people have left out the door. I mean, you look to the kind of person for you to say, come and have a cup of tea before you go and let's have a chat. What advice would you be giving?
Yeah, I think whatever time you've spent within the policing family, it will have really impacted on you. And I think nowadays it's not so much a 30, 35-year career. People will come in and out. It's quite interesting because my oldest boy is heading down that route, saying he wants to be a police officer. Yeah. And I'm not dissuading him, because you know, I've had a fantastic time. My husband was a police officer. Yeah. And it's a really brilliant, diverse career. I think for some people, they will fall out of love with the job, and then I would say go and do something else, because you've got to enjoy it day after day to give it your best. I think when you get towards the end of your career, or when you're about to leave, be really reflective around what you've achieved and what you've done, because you'll surprise yourself. You've done a really good job, and you've given everything, and then look for the future. Look at what you can do after that, because it can be a bit of a void to fill. You can't just go and do nothing, I would suggest, and I don't think anybody does. You pick up and do something else. Give yourself time to recover, think about other things. That sounds awful, recover, but relax, recover, recharge your batteries, go back and do something completely different, or go back into the policing world, but you'll go back recharged. And that's why I think actually career breaks are quite good for people as well. You know, if you just need to go and do something else, it's a really brilliant time to do it. But I just think be positive about it. There's loads of other things to do outside in the big wide world, and as you've already said, you are well sought after. You've got some fantastic skills, and there's another however many years you want to go and do something different and contribute and get a lot back yourself. So it's a positive time.
That's great stuff, Heather. Interesting you talked about recover, because one of the guys that we interviewed, it's openly on the web, he actually said it took me 2 months to get back to normality. And he was in the Met. He was doing 12-hour shifts, you know, day in, day out, probably during the summer, like peak time. And he said, I didn't realize it was going to take me that long to get to the recovery stage. And that's what he used, funny enough. And then start looking around and say, what is it I want to do next? So there is that hot, fast-paced life about policing, and all of a sudden it's gone.
Yeah, and you don't have to. I've seen colleagues who have been desperately trying to get another full-time job, a really high-profile. Oh, got to get on, and you know, and my view was very different. I was probably the same as your colleague. For the first few weeks, I used to have to set my alarm in the afternoon in case I sat down, because I would invariably fall asleep, and I wouldn't go collect the kids from school, because I didn't realise how tired I was. And I think emotionally it takes it out of you when you're leaving, handing over, you're still trying to do things. I think the weekend before I finished, I was on call and I had a double homicide. And there was no way on earth I was handing it over to anybody else to manage over that weekend, because I wanted to do it. And I think you know, you kind of leave almost like, well, I've just finished the end of the day. I could probably pick it up again on Monday, because you just don't start working till
I know exactly what you mean. No, I was exactly the same. I know exactly what you mean. It's like it's kind of you're back to your values again, isn't it? Back to your values are, I'm not just going to shut up shop and wind down 6 months before I'm going. I want to work to the same level I've always worked at, right up to that very last day. So, you know,
absolutely.
We've inherited those kind of things in the time that we've been in policing, which is great. And
absolutely.
Somebody needs that in UK PLC as well.
Yes.
Heather, my last, it's not so much a question for me now, but again, I know you're with the RDA, and if you want to give a big shout out to that and any other organisation that you're working with, the floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd certainly like to give a big plug to the Riding for Disabled Association. It's a fantastic charity. It's run by volunteers who turn out in absolutely all weathers to help people, to just give them something different on a Wednesday and Thursday for us up at Grimsby and Cleethorpes group. Some of them compete, they go forward, and they do amazingly well. But also just the, you know, the kids and the adults who just come along each week to get some fresh air, stretch their muscles, think about something different other than what issues they're facing in life. It's absolutely tremendous. And for anybody who has just got a couple of hours per week to come and help, you know, look up your local group, because they are absolutely fantastic and want you to come and work with them. You don't actually have to have any equine knowledge whatsoever. You just have to be good with people, and they are brilliant.
Oh, that's great. And the RDA, have they got a national website then, Heather, that people can find the regional kind of centres to go and work with?
Yeah, they've got a national website. It will list all the different groups that are on there. They survive on lottery funding and donations. We fund 4 ponies which live up at Laceby near Grimsby in a riding school, and you know, they just thrive on volunteers, because you can't run it if you can't. Sometimes people actually need 3 people to help them with 1 horse and 1 rider, so the more the merrier kind of thing. And they are they're really amazing people. But online it'll tell you your local groups, and they do national competitions.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I've never heard of it before, so I'm glad we've had this conversation.
Really?
And it's going to help spread the word. And it's funny because my wife and my daughter-in-law rescued a pony probably about 6 months ago now, so it's growing as each month goes by. I think he's still got about 6-8 months before he gets to full speed. Then he'd be the kind of size that'd be probably the right for RDA. I mean, so I won't mention it to my wife. I can see us inheriting ponies now for the rest of my life.
Oh, brilliant.
This has been fantastic chat and interview here. Again, as I always get when I do these, I get a couple of golden nuggets of information which we kind of post to people, say, look, have a look at this interview, there's some key stuff here about X, Y, Z, and it's really, really good, and hopefully stay in contact and see if we can help each other, and any assistance you can give it, but even the police colleagues would be great as well.
Yeah, brilliant, absolutely.
Okay, thanks very much, Heather.
Thank you.